Hey everyone, and welcome back to the news where we've got some pretty fun stories today. So, FIFA's loot boxes are being banned in the Netherlands and they have to be removed. And if they're not, there can be fines of up to $10 million. So that's pretty major. I'd also say, importantly, it could be another important bit of precedent, at least when it comes to EU nations' handling of things like this. Then Todd has given his largest interview yet since Microsoft's acquisition of Bethesda, so that's kind of fun. And CD Projekt Red's Adam Kaczynski has spoken up about crunch, plus another pretty cool No Man's Sky update, because No Man's Sky really just keeps on going. It's quite impressive. Okay, let's get into the news. Alright, so the Netherlands Gaming Authority, NGA as we'll call it from now on, has declared that FIFA Ultimate Team loot boxes are in violation of Dutch gambling laws. So, the NGA will be allowed to fine EA and their Swiss subsidiary a total of 500k a week until the loot boxes are disabled. And I believe that works in a way where each can be fined a total of 5 million each, so that ends up being 10 million in total. But yes, basically, massive fines are going to be going out if EA do not comply. Now, the decision was approved by the District Court of The Hague this week after a pretty lengthy legal battle. Basically, the NGA actually ruled that FIFA Ultimate Team packs violated the gambling laws back in 2019, but obviously EA decided to challenge this decision, which any company obviously would, given how much money this stuff is worth. Things, of course, dragged on, as they usually do when it gets legal. Essentially, your core here is that EA argued that the content of the FIFA Ultimate Team packs only had value within FIFA, and that they could not be converted into cash, and that therefore that was not a form of gambling. Now, if you've been keeping up to date with this, that's generally what the companies will push. If you can't cash out, it's not gambling. It's a little bit like, it reminds me of, say, the pachinko loopholes in Japan, where can you gamble directly for like money at a pachinko parlor? No. Can you get a prize that you then, on the down low, convert into cash like one door over? Yes. Now, that's not really something you can do as much, but it's just an example of the reading of the law is really important when it comes to things like this, and really strict definitions where it's about value in terms of currency instead of value in the eyes of the person engaging in the gambling-like behavior. That's really the thing that matters here. And it seems like the Dutch are definitely going with a more broad view of things. So this judge dismissed EA's defense, ordering that if EA want to avoid the weekly fine, that they need to disable loot boxes within 3 weeks. Pretty big, right? Now, EA are not going down easy. Of course, it's EA. So they've already announced that they plan to appeal the decision and that they do not believe that FIFA Ultimate Team packs violate gambling laws. And yes, they seek to avoid a situation impacting the ability of Dutch players to fully experience and enjoy FIFA Ultimate Team. Yes, that's clearly what EA are concerned about. No, obviously, they still want to make FUT pack money. I mean, you would if you were EA, I get that, but come on, it's obviously gambling, right? Is it taking currency out? No. Is it playing the same psychological bits in people's heads? Yes. So that's what's going on there. Of course, their appeal is going to send this up to one of the Netherlands' 4 courts of appeal. And the higher and higher things like this get, then I suppose the more important it is as a bit of case law, I imagine anyway. But it is interesting. The Dutch have been on a bit of a warpath regarding loot boxes in the last few years. They've been pretty proactive about it. The NGA actually identified FIFA packs as a particularly egregious example back in 2018. So you can see the wheels have sort of been moving here for quite some time. Now, when they did that, it was as a part of a wider investigation into basically if a correlation exists between loot boxes and then problem gambling behavior. And, looking into things like that, that's being done across the spectrum. Of course, in the UK, we have the DCMS committee stuff as well that we've been covering on this channel. So that's basically that. The NGA informed FIFA that the Ultimate Team packs were in violation of gambling laws in 2018 and then in 2019 as well, off the back of the investigation. EA, though, obviously intend to fight this thing to the end, but it does feel like it's just getting, the screws are tightening or whatever on EA on this stuff. Like, more and more territories are paying attention. Of course, we only just covered in 1 or 2 videos ago, Canada, right? There's the class action suit going on there. That's covering so many of EA's games. But between the decision in the Netherlands, the recent lawsuits in Canada, the things going on in the likes of the UK with the government investigations, EA are absolutely under more scrutiny than ever. and they're going to need to do a lot more than just yammer on about the same choice, fairness, value, and fun nonsense, and that's how they defend their microtransactions. They're going to need to do more than that. I think they may need to change this business model, and they won't want to, because as we've covered in the past, it is a massive percentage of the company's income. Alright, next up, a quick bit of TLDR with Todd Howard, because he gave an interview recently, and just to cut a long story short, basically Todd said that the acquisition was a surprise to many at Bethesda. I think that would make sense given how there was other deals, even like the ones that do exist right now with Sony, that were being talked to in the months leading up to that, but the deal does not close until next year, so it's not really real just yet. Now, he said he underestimated the impact that it would have on the industry, which I think is interesting. I mean, the specter of Elder Scrolls 6 exclusive, that's pretty obvious, but certainly it has got a lot of headlines. Now, they have said, or Todd has said, that Bethesda is basically giving up very little here and will be essentially autonomous, so that is, I suppose, good to hear. I mean, there's certainly things that Bethesda do that we all wish were maybe a bit more like how Xbox run things, funny enough. But anyway, moving on, he also said that access is a core thing for next gen, and that basically means xCloud and Game Pass are things that Bethesda really do like, which I suppose does make sense because the way that Microsoft do things will mean that more people will probably have an opportunity to play their games, which obviously is good for Bethesda. That said, will Xbox exclusivity ruin some of that or run counter to it? Well, on that it's interesting because Todd said it was, and I quote, hard to imagine the Elder Scrolls 6 releasing only on Xbox. Now there, I have to wonder, does he mean Xbox the console or Xbox the platform? Hard to say. But that probably won't be his or Bethesda's decision to make when push comes to shove there, because Microsoft ultimately do own them. But here's what I will say, right? These big companies, they make consoles so that they can sell things on the consoles, right? We all know that most of these consoles are sold at a loss, especially earlier on in a generation. So if that's the case, then it's all just a way to get people onto your platform and to build out your store so you can sell more software. So is it that bad for Microsoft if they have a situation where you can get all the Bethesda games on Game Pass and, you can get this incredible value for Bethesda content on their side, which will obviously drive a lot of people to them? And, I mean, them losing and someone going to Sony? Well, what does that look like? It looks like them it looks like a user purchasing one of Microsoft's games on another platform. I mean, sure, they're not doing it on an Xbox, but as far as losing goes, that's not so bad. So, interesting stuff. That's what we've got from Todd. Next up, another drama. Alright, shaders. So, Halo Infinite's new cosmetic system has sparked concern. It's called coatings, but it basically does resemble Destiny 2's rather infamous shader system, where basically Bungie have had a difficult time getting that to be good, because it went from a pretty good system in Destiny 1 to a very microtransaction focused one in Destiny 2, especially, when they were consumable and stuff like that, which really rubbed people the wrong way. Now, we don't know the full details here, but it does seem like aspects of it are going to just be microtransactions that are kind of like shaders from Destiny in Halo Infinite, and that does actually spark some worry for Halo fans. It's not the sort of thing they had been super used to. I mean, there have been microtransactions in past Halo games, but it was mostly limited to that it wasn't Warzone, whatever it was called. It was like their super juiced up big team battle mode. So that's what's going on there. Now, some of this makes sense. Halo Infinite's multiplayer is going to be free to play, so they will want to get their beans somehow from doing that. So I'm not particularly surprised there. And I suppose, is it okay for Microsoft to do this and monetize in this way when it's free to play? Is that more okay than Bungie doing similar, but also you having to, purchase the expansion, season passes, and all of that stuff? I'd say it's certainly a lot more reasonable for Microsoft to do this, considering the multiplayer experience is free to play. But still, I will say this, especially also for me as a traditional Halo fan, this is the sort of thing that's overcomplicating a thing I loved about Halo, and that was, it was really simple. The cosmetics were pretty simple, and if somebody had the really cool cosmetics, you kind of knew, wow, they've really skilled up on that playlist. That stuff was really cool back in the day. So that's essentially what's going on there. Time will tell, though, right? We haven't actually seen what the full thing is like yet. Certainly players are concerned, and I'd say they are primed to be worried about Halo Infinite, given what seems to be production issues. So that's what's up. I mean, hey, there's no loot boxes. That is a plus. And if this is just some cosmetic skins in a free-to-play game, then I suppose that is a little bit closer to what we're all used to anyway. Next up, some more drama about a game that I've been very excited about, mainly because Total Biscuit talked up the first one so much. That is Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. So we've been covering its low-level drama for quite a while. I know it's not the biggest game ever, but it's been without a narrative lead since Cara Ellison left, and that was despite her apparently leaving on her own terms. Now, someone just randomly leaving, I mean, sure, fine, but there have been a lot of rumors of internal turmoil over at Hardsuit Labs, who are the dev, and that's especially after the very unceremonious and bizarre departure of the past two big creatives. We covered that a while ago. Very dramatic thumbnail with the guy's face on it for our video, but one of the guys that they got rid of there is like the de facto face of the franchise. So there's a lot of worry going on here. Now, the new person there, Samantha Walschlager, I think, she is the new narrative lead on Bloodlines 2. Now, she was previously of BioWare and ArenaNet. Her credits are on Guild Wars 2, Star Wars The Old Republic, specifically the narrative expansions, and Mass Effect Andromeda. Now, you look at Andromeda and you think, oh dear, but I will say the Star Wars The Old Republic expansions that she worked on were actually pretty good. And I think Mass Effect Andromeda, you know, it just suffered from absolutely everything and seems to be scuffed. So I'd be, you know, situation where even a really good person working on a slightly scuffed project, you know, it's not going to turn out ideally. So she's probably going to do just fine, I'd imagine. But you then do wonder, is this a project that resembles Mass Effect Andromeda in terms of being scuffed behind the scenes? I mean, we've got these decently high-profile departures. We've got rumors of, well, you know, we've got the delays. We've got rumors of turbulent leadership. It's a bit spooky, and I really hope that, you know, the first game was not as good as it deserved to be. And after mods came out, it was an absolutely incredible experience, even though it was pretty rough around the edges, from what I understand. You really would have hoped that 2 would have been the true promise of 1, but actually releasing in an incredible state. And I'm just worried that that won't happen given these issues. So that's what's up there. Let's move on. Have you been worried that Game Pass will eventually try to gouge you? Well, if you have been, then Phil Spencer is actually trying to assuage some of your fears, because he recently talked on the Drop Frames podcast about a few things. So here's the TLDR, right? Phil says that he knows that some devs are wary of Game Pass's end goals, and there's a few different things there. I'd say a lot of devs are a bit worried that it will devalue games and stuff like that. He talked less about that, and he talked more about people being worried that Microsoft's plan is to get all the users in and then jack up the price, like Netflix does. Phil said that will not happen, so I suppose we'll just have to hold him to that. He did say, to elaborate there, that Game Pass is completely stable at its current price. And to be clear, that's him talking even with, say, the xCloud streaming, EA Play, and the post-acquisition edition of the Bethesda library. It's a lot of people, and hey, Game Pass seems to be doing well enough. I mean, 15 plus million subscribers. I mean, hey, it's a bit funny that Microsoft have got Game Pass that's, you know, that big, and it's, you know, only just getting more subscribers than World of Warcraft used to have back at its peak, so it's a bit funny. But yes, Game Pass is doing super well. It is bringing them in a lot of money, and also I would say it is sort of creating a habit, right? It's making people Xbox platform fans. I think that's their real goal. But anyway, that's what Phil had to say. Moving on, CD Projekt Red crunch. Okay, so the co-CEO Adam Kaczynski informed investors this week that crunch at the studio is not that bad and never was. Now, he says that a large part of the team is not crunching and that it's mostly QA and engineers, programmers, stuff like that, but that it's not that heavy, and apparently they're happy about the extra weeks. So that's what he said. Now, obviously, CD Projekt Red was already under some fire for violating their own non-obligatory crunch policy that they talked about. That they talked about last year. So there's that, which is a bit dramatic. In fairness, they did acknowledge that they went against that in their own post when, you know, the whole hubbub happened like 3-4 weeks ago. Now, Adam's point here is, his point is basically that it's not so bad if only some of the studio is crunching. And I think that does miss the point of what some people are saying, though I'd say he is likely right in that yes, QA and engineering absolutely will be the most pressured in a time like this. Now, he also does say that the media have blown it out of proportion. That's obviously hinting at, say, the Jason Schreier reporting. Now, that's a situation where the Jason Schreier reporting is stuff that's been in line with what people have said about The Witcher 3's level of crunch, where, you know, yes, Polish labor laws are 48 hours a week, but there was a lot more than that going on. And I mean, yeah, I didn't actually understand this as much when I first did it, but a lot of Americans, sort of were like, well, the local laws are that, so there couldn't be more crunch than that. And I just realized that, oh yeah, in America, there's basically no standards or protections to those things anyway, right? And yeah, whatever will happen. And what I will say is, even here in Northern Ireland, yes, we do have, the law that says how much work should happen in a week. That's not followed at all. That does not prevent any form of crunch going on. So just so the American audience understands, even in countries that do have those work protections, crunch still happens. I mean, hey, maybe it's different in a country like France where they are super hardcore about that stuff, but certainly in the UK and from what I hear of Poland, it is all still pretty fast and loose if you can get away with it, basically. So that's the situation there, right? You've got a lot of individual devs who are piping up in a not particularly pro CDPR way. That is obviously stuff that Jason Schreier and a lot of other journalists have been signal boosting. And then you've got the company saying this. So here's the deal, right? In a situation like this, I think you've got to analyze incentives and perhaps meet them at the middle. Right? CD Projekt Red will want to downplay this and seem super reasonable and not have bad PR clouding their game. Then, if you look at the media, well, they are going to want a more juicy, salacious version of the story. I think what we probably have to do is meet them in the middle. It's probably not the absolute doom of the world, and it's probably a decent bit worse than what Adam Kaczynski is saying. It's probably somewhere in the middle, and that's obviously not ideal. And here's what I'm really going to say, because I know a lot of people, their perspective is, well, you know what, screw the workers, I just want to buy a product. Even for you, this matters, because you have been inconvenienced by delays. These delays have happened because the team did not manage their game well. They said about the most recent delay that it was because they misjudged how much time they would need, right? This stuff is just bad project management. It hurts the staff, which is bad for the companies and bad for their long-term health. And it also hurts the customers who are inconvenienced and end up having, lower scope, worse quality games that, happen from all of this bad management going on. Now, there is a little bit more. He also, Adam, that is, he did say that he had messed up. So he sent an email to staff explaining that he didn't want to comment on crunch, but Adam said that he did that in a, and this is his words, demeaning and harmful way. And he said that it wasn't just unfortunate, it was utterly bad. So who knows? I mean, look, I'm going to take them in good faith that what they said last year about not wanting crunch and wanting to be a more humane place to work, I'm going to take it in good faith that really is what their goal is. I think that a whole bunch of things have spiraled out of hand and they're now going against some things that they would rather have be their principles. I think the real, the real test will be after this and after the big successes of this game, will they be able to actually capitalize on that and build a better company? I sincerely hope they do. Not just for the people who work there, obviously for them, but also because it will probably mean they'll be able to make games better. And they already make games really bloody good, at least insofar as the end product goes. Okay, let's move on. Yeah, so speaking of Cyberpunk, its new date, December 10th, was going to be clashing with Path of Exile's new expansion, launching it a day after. And rather than ask fans to choose between the two games, and that's their quote, the developers of Path of Exile, Grinding Gear Games, have decided to just push their update to January 2021. And look, we can all be like, really guys, you're going to do that? But also, can you blame them? I would not want to be releasing a game anywhere near Cyberpunk 2077. I mean, come on. So yes, they're going to be working on the next update during the delay. And you know what? It was some pretty honest communication. Like, they basically just said, yeah, we don't want to go again, we don't want this clash to happen, we're doing it later. So, you know what, props for honesty. And finally, let's end this with a nice story, because No Man's Sky is going to be getting a fancy next-gen version launching on the Xbox X and S, as well as the PS5 on November 10th and 12th, respectively. It's going to have 4K 60, the PS5 controller, haptic feedback will also be supported, there's going to be graphical updates, there's going to be 32-player multiplayer, faster loading times, and it basically does just bring the console version in line with the PC experience, but what's nice is the PC version will also get some visual improvements, especially for players who are using ultra settings. Yep, Hello Games are a busy bunch, and absolutely props to them. They have taken a massive disaster and turned it into an absolutely massive success. And speaking of that, that's it for today's video. Thank you very much for watching. If you want to support us, you can check out the Patreon and also hit that sub button. With that said, I will though, see you next time.